Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. KIARA here. If you're new, thank you so much for clicking on this video. And obviously by the title of this video, it's a mental health update. I've received a lot of requests to do a mental health update based off of the last video that I shared on my channel back in February. I will link it here in the annotation so that you guys can watch it. Highly recommend watching that before you jump into this one. I will also link it down in the description. Wanted to kind of talk through some of the mental health updates / life updates that I've been going through since that last video. And I actually have received countless emails and DMs on Instagram and Facebook regarding this topic, specifically postpartum depression and just dealing with all the many emotions that comes with motherhood. It's like a roller coaster. So I just wanted to do this because I think it's important. I don't want to leave you guys hanging from the last video that I shared on my channel, where I was in a way worse spot than I am now. As you guys can tell, I'm in such a better position and such a better just mindset now that time has passed. And it is true that time heals all. I'm not going to say that I'm completely healed. I don't think I will ever get to that point. I think that there's always going to be progression that has to be made when it comes to how I cope and dealing with co-parenting with Carter and my soon-to-be ex-husband, and also just coming to grips with the fact that I have a different type of family. I do not have a nuclear family, but I think in the grand scheme of things, patience has been a really trying time for me. And if you're watching this and you're a Christian, please pray for me. Pray that I can practice patience and discernment when it comes to decisions that have to be made in regard to my divorce. Speaking of divorce, I actually filed for divorce back in March of this year. No headway really has been made regarding that because we are in unprecedented times right now because of COVID. So there's a lot of delays. People are working from home. People have left their jobs because of some of the mandates that have been put forth by the government and et cetera, policies that have been made. So there's a lot of delays. Really been no headway made in that regard. As I had mentioned on social media, I did a Q&A a couple of months ago. I have hired lawyers. So now that I'm working, I have a full-time job, which I'll get into that a little bit later. It's going to be more important than ever for me to have that representation. And if you're going through something similar, or you are contemplating going through something like this, such as divorce and separation, I definitely recommend hiring legal representation to help you, especially if you're working, because it is very time consuming. Before I had hired a lawyer, I was basically practicing law. I was catching myself up on all of that. And when you file for a divorce, and you're pro se, which means you're representing yourself, they expect you to know the law. Like, you are basically held to the same standard as a lawyer. And that's why they always say to make sure that you consult a lawyer or receive legal advice at least before filing, because not having all of the paperwork when you file can delay the process a lot. I'm not going to really get into the specifics as to why. Just know that trust is irretrievably broken. We actually separated back in February, which is when I shared that video, so it was very raw and uncensored. I do not regret posting that because I have helped a lot of people, and I think it's a way that I could play my hand in destigmatizing mental health and prioritizing that, whether it be for your job or whatever. It was kind of like, I don't even want to get into the specifics of that because that's a whole nother situation. Long story short, we separated, and we've been separated since February. It is August now, so about 6 months. Like I said, things have just been a struggle, just practicing patience, waiting for a job. I finally landed a job, and I started last week on the 16th, and I'm so thankful for it because it's exactly what I was looking for plus more, and they were able to accept my job salary requirements. It's just a blessing. I have never been able to pray and have an answered prayer, you know, like that was an answered prayer for me. So being able to check that off in my prayer journal as an answered prayer was a blessing, and it just goes to show that God is always there. He's always listening, and he's always with you, even when you feel like he's not. But I'm in a much better mental state than I was back in the beginning of the year. And as I said, I don't want to really get into the specifics, but by and large, the reason why my mental health was deteriorating at that time was because of the situation between Trey and I. That was the biggest thing, and trying to put on a front as an influencer that everything was okay just was not going to cut it anymore. I think between putting on a front and, you know, I don't even want to say it was a front, but it was, because, you know, I knew certain things were going on, but I didn't know exactly. But, you know, I asked God to reveal everything to me so I could make a calculated decision, and he did. That situation happens. Things in our marriage had been, you know, a struggle to begin with. I think that Trey being away so much did not help. I had just had a baby. He left 3 months after I had Carter. He was gone for 6 months, and that military lifestyle is just different. I mean, they're partying and they're going out, they're staying late, and I just felt like my voice wasn't being heard as his wife, and, you know, a bunch of different things. I'm sure if you ask him in his perspective, he won't bring up some of the things that I believe was to the detriment. It is what it is. It's all relative, right? There's always 3 sides to the story, and, you know, it's my side, his side, and then the truth. And that's really what it comes down to. Fast forward to now, I have a job. That was really big for me, was being able to land a job that I was not overqualified for, because I wasn't working in service. I wasn't going to do any of that. I wanted to find a job that was remote, and I did. This job is completely remote. I'm able to work from home, do what I love, and do communications and marketing. That's that. Like, I literally cannot even believe that I'm in the situation that I'm in. Carter started daycare last week, and that's last Monday as well, same day as my first day of work, and it was amazing. It's been somewhat of acclimation because he's never been around kids for a long period of time, so he has been getting sick. He was actually sick before he went into daycare, but I felt like it was okay because he didn't have a fever or anything, so I put him into daycare for that week. But last Friday I did have to go pick him up early because he did spike a fever, so went to urgent care, got that all handled, and now, you know, he's on the path to wellness, fingers crossed. So that's what's going on. And then just my mental state overall, how I'm coping with everything, especially with co-parenting. So co-parenting is going to be an ongoing effort. It's a struggle because, without saying too much, there's just some things I just don't trust him. My number one priority is to ensure the safety of Carter, and not just physical but emotional. And I don't want him to be confused. I don't want him to have issues or a complex down the line because of certain things. And one of the main struggles right now is just trying to get a connection that, like, what our decisions are now affects Carter's future. And I think because, you know, certain people think that he's so young, he's resilient, and he's this and he's that there won't be any issues. But I think that when you develop something, a habit early on, especially as an adult, you're set in your ways. It's not going to change down the line as the child gets older. If you're acting a certain way now, you're always most likely going to act that way unless you are making a concerted effort to, you know, pivot and change. I feel like I don't even know who he is, but I think that this is who he's always been. You know, it's hard for me to explain without kind of fleshing out the entire details of the situation, but sometimes when you grow up, you have to put on a front, or you feel like you can't be your true authentic self because that's not allowed. That's kind of where we're at in the game, you know, with my co-parent, and just trying to figure things out. I mean, just our values are vastly different. One of the biggest things right now is just co-parenting and trying to communicate with him. It's emotionally draining. I try to keep it at a minimum. I try to ensure that we're just talking about Carter, and if we get off track, I get right back on track real quick. I have set boundaries. I'm not going to talk about certain things. I'm not going to do certain things. We're meeting halfway, whatever the case might be. I'm not co-parenting with his parents. I'm co-parenting with you. And it's been somewhat of a struggle. I've come to grips with that. I've come to the conclusion that that's how life's going to be. And I'm trying to prepare myself mentally and emotionally through therapy on how to safeguard Carter when he gets older and he can recognize, hey, like, why isn't dad around, you know, anymore, this and that and the other. And then the other safeguard is ensuring that I've made a concerted effort to not date during this time because things are very complicated. Emotions are very high for me. And I feel as if dating right now is just going to make everything more complicated. I've made a concerted effort to remain celibate and to abstain from sexual activity. It is a hard boundary that I'm not budging on. I just don't want to be in any entanglements with anyone because not only do I mean, obviously the marriage is over. That's not, this isn't a hope to get back together with my husband, but it's a hope to protect myself, to protect my emotions, to protect everything, to protect Carter. I've made a concerted effort to not do any of that because it's not a priority right now. I'm trying to get myself in order. It makes no sense for me to be spending money on someone else that I'm dating when I don't even have the money myself to basically support myself, which is why I had to get a job. So that's the main thing, just being a good steward of my money, because that is something that I struggled with extremely in our marriage. I'm not gonna lie. I am happy to share my fault, and I definitely spent more money than I would like to admit in our marriage, and that is something that was kind of to the detriment of our marriage as well. Some people may defer and think differently, but I've tried to make a good faith effort in trying to resolve that issue. Honestly, going back to the mental health update, I say all these things because it goes back to my mental health. And I think one way to ensure that your mental health is up to par and that you're protecting your mental health is to set boundaries. That has been one of the biggest lessons learned in my life. I've always wanted things here and now, and knowing that lessons learned in my life, I've always wanted things here and now, and knowing that I have to just be patient and things will unfold as God sees fit has been so hard, but so rewarding in the same token. So yeah, I wanted to just give those tips. Boundaries are going to be your best friend, and also seeking therapy when needed so that you can essentially vent to someone that is a third party or an objective party that can look at the situation from the outside looking in and make recommendations on how you can better yourself and do well. In terms of my medication, I am still taking Zoloft. I know Zoloft is a really popular antidepressant that a lot of mothers take after they have a baby or postpartum or what have you. And it has been working well for me. I'm at the lowest dose. I'm on the placebo dose, and I have been since February, and it's really helped to, it's just another tool in my toolbox on my journey of mental wellness. And it's helped me to organize my thoughts, and I'm not crying all the time. The depression itself has been on a good path in terms of having episodes. I haven't had an episode since the beginning of this year, which if you watch my previous video on my mental health update, you will know I voluntarily admitted myself into a mental health facility because I just was not in a good spot when I discovered some information. And so I think one of the biggest lessons learned in that is knowing that I'm not alone. There are people that are out there that are going through similar situations, and know that you're not alone. Know your worth. Nothing is worth your mental health, even a marriage. And I'm not the type of person that will disregard something or try to pretend like it doesn't exist just for the betterment of my family. Like, no, a marriage is supposed to be something where you're open and honest. And in order for you to be open and honest, you have to be emotionally available. And in order for you to be emotionally available, you have to basically go through things from your childhood all the way up to now as an adult and figure out those trauma and how to resolve those trauma. And as easy as it is for us to blame others for how we feel and why we were triggered, there's a deeper reason for why you're triggered when someone approaches you about something or comes to you about something. So taking accountability is going to be one of the biggest things that you can do when you're dealing with your mental health and figuring out how you can better yourself. How can KIARA be a better person than she was yesterday? I found some really great books that I've been reading, not specifically on psychology, just to get my mind off of the day-to-day struggles in life, being able to listen to praise and worship music. This is an outlet talking to you guys and DMing you guys about just life in general and learning from you all if you've gone through a similar situation in the past and knowing that it will get better. Ultimately, just taking accountability. I'm an adult. There's no need for me to lie. There's no need for me to hide who I really am. And if you feel that need to do that, maybe it's time to take a look at yourself and figure out why you feel that way and why you feel that you have to lie or why you feel like you have to hide who you truly are. So I've really learned in that sense. And in terms of my influencer career, obviously I had my first day of full-time work and it was amazing. I haven't posted as much, but I am trying to stay consistent. So I try to post on my YouTube channel at least once a week. That's something that's doable for me. And I've been able to land 4-figure deals through influencing on a consistent basis. So that's really helped even before I had my full-time job. I mean, even now, because I haven't gotten, you know, it takes a little bit while to get paid through a job when you first start. But just even now, being able to have that income through Like to Know It and through brand deals has really helped and has helped me, you know, get by. So thank you so much if you have supported me in that way. And I really appreciate it because it has helped loads. But yeah, overall, my mental health now has been phenomenal. I do have my days. I have my days where I am bitter and I'm upset and I cannot believe I'm going through this and I wish I wasn't going through this. And then I have my days where I'm grateful that I'm not still in a marriage that I am undervalued in and that I'm not truly and authentically loved. Not giving me their all, you know, because I felt like I was giving my all, you know. And so when things are one-sided or when you're going through relationship issues, you cannot make a resolve if there's only one person willing to put in the work. You both have to be willing to put in the work. And I think about it and I think, wow, like I wasn't even worth it to put in the work. You know, I wasn't even worth it to work through those issues. So that's what I'm working through right now. You know, with my family, I actually broke up with my former therapist because she just was inconsistent and just a bunch of other things with scheduling and things like that. And she was in a different state. So I am on the search for a new therapist. So if you have any therapists in the central PA area, please comment down below and let me know, or you can DM me. But I am on the search for a therapist to kind of help me in this new phase that I'm in, because before, when I was seeing my old therapist, it was kind of like damage control, right? I was trying to get in a stable space mentally. And now it's just more or less trying to, I've come to grips with this current circumstance that I'm in, and how can I manage the day-to-day with co-parenting, with work, with being a single mom, with trying to figure out my finances, how to get out of my parents' house, and, you know, what money do I need to save up, and just going through all of that and how I move forward while I'm still technically married to the person that I share a child with. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to really move on, for me anyway. It's hard for me to move on when I know that I'm still connected to him in a way. I still have his last name. My son has his last name. I have a son with him. It's just, it's wild. It is crazy. So just dealing with that, trying to manage those expectations and emotions. But yeah, that's pretty much it for update. I wanted this to be a very informal, and I did share some nuggets in there of how to set boundaries, take accountability, and also just take a look at yourself and figure out what it is you need to work on. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and you got some good tidbits out of this. Also, I have linked down in the description steps on how to choose a therapist, how to pick a therapist. I actually went live with at Mrs. Mommy Esquire or Lashana a couple weeks ago, and we shared how to choose a therapist. So if that's something that you're interested in, I will link IGTV down in the description. Make sure you check that out. Also, if you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe. I'm thinking of doing this more often, doing like mental health updates and check-ins with you guys so that not only you can learn, but I can look back on this and see how much I've changed and how much I've grown. But make sure you're subscribed, and I will talk to you guys in my next video.